Business Retention Committee to order, joined by Councilman Parks. I expect Mr. Krikorian will be here shortly. Items 9, 10, and 11 are business improvement districts. We have not heard any complaints, so we're moving those on consent. If that meets with your approval, Mr. Parks. Mr. Parks moves, and I concur that those matters are approved. DWP has requested to take item number 8 out of order so that they can get to their board meeting. So let's do that.
Item number 8 is a Department of Water and Power reports relative to the low-income discount and lifeline programs.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is John Chen with the Department of Water and Power. Just want to come back to answer some of the questions. First of all, regarding the public benefits expenditure, you asked for a breakdown of the expenditures. And for the low-income program itself on the electric energy side of it is $41 million per year of expenditure. And we have $24 million for energy efficiency, demand side management, $30 million for solar, renewable energy, and approximately $1 million for research, development, demo. So that's total of $96 million. And for the low-income program, water system also provides close to $20 million in addition to the power funding. So in combination, there's about $60 million that we provide annually for low-income subsidy. And as far as the refrigerators, we have distributed over 75,000 free energy efficient refrigerators to low-income customers. And we have also passed out 2.75 million compact fluorescent bulbs that have been distributed to all of the 1.6 million customers in the city of Los Angeles. And you also asked for a breakdown of the percentage of participants from the various council districts. We have that information also broken down by 15 council districts.
Has that been given to the clerk?
Not yet, because we were asked to come back. We were expected to probably come back a couple weeks from now. So this was kind of surprised that it's on this agenda. So we do have the information. We definitely can transmit over in a transmitter.
Okay, then I would ask that you report back to the Energy Committee at the subsequent meeting. We're going to have a transition on membership on various committees. I will no longer be chair of this committee, and that was relative to this item was relative to our role as overseeing poverty-related issues. But given the change in chairmanship, I'd like to move this item into energy so that I can keep a close eye on it. I'm not pleased with the 57% penetration rate, which is lower than some of the most of the major utilities in the state, and I think we can do a far better job. But also, I'm not exactly clear what the money having been spent, how that relates to low-income discount. In other words, all the ratepayers are being charged this low-income rate, but you're buying light bulbs with their money, and I'm not exactly clear how that fits into a LIHEAP program or a discount program.
I think under the Public Benefits Fund, there's 4 different categories. One is energy efficiency and one conservation type of effort. Renewable is another one. Research and demonstration is the third one, and I think low-income subsidy is the 4th one. So there's 4 different categories that's under Public Benefits Fund. Just for the low-income subsidy alone, That's $41 million for the energy and electric energy side of it.
Okay.
Water is about 19 point.
Now, what do we pay for a light bulb? Because you can get them at any Home Depot. What are we paying for a light bulb?
That was done a couple years ago.
I'm not asking when. I'm just asking how much we pay for a light bulb.
I believe at that time was somewhere around $1 per light bulb. At that time, I think it's pretty.
How much do they cost at Home Depot?
I haven't gone to Home Depot lately, but it was through a bid process that they had other people bid, all the vendors bid, and they took the lowest price, I believe, at that time. Right now, you can go to Home Depot.
I do want to know how the prices for the refrigerators, for the light bulbs, how does that compare to the market?
Okay.
And did we get a good cost, or are we paying inflated prices?
Okay.
Okay. And DWP purchases these things directly, right?
I believe so. That's correct.
Okay. All right. Well, I too was caught off guard by virtue, not really caught off guard, but I didn't know when the transition was going to be of the chairmanships. So I also did not expect a full and complete report. I would ask that the report to the Energy Committee be in written form and be done in consultation with my staff, so that we make sure that the questions that we have, you can answer in your written report. So let's say 60 days.
Okay.
Okay.
By the way,
Actually, is that too long? You've been working on this for a while now.
how about 45 days?
Okay, 45. All right, 45.
By the way, we did surpass the 300,000 participation number last month.
Well, but 300,000 is arbitrary. I mean, the percentage is really what counts. That means that 43% of people who are eligible for a discount at DWP are not getting it.
Okay.
In other words, they're paying more than they should pay, and I don't think that's right.
Okay.
So, okay. And other companies, although some of them are different, are at 90% penetration, and we're at 57%. I mean, that doesn't make sense. It's just not right.
Okay.
We're overcharging the poorest people. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Let me just ask a couple of questions.
Oh, yes.
Just for my background information, is that, can you be in both programs, the low
Excuse-
cost and the Lifeline? Or you're in either or,
You would qualify for one or the other.
one or the other? So and then the other thing is, when you say that the everyday user pays for this subsidy, is that listed on their bill that they know that, or how are they made aware of that?
I think it is an item called ESA, the Energy Subsidy Adjustment. And so there's one line charge on that, and that.
So if you're not eligible for either one of these programs, you're paying that, and the customer knows that they're paying the subsidy for someone else.
Yes.
And then the other issue is that you mentioned a couple of things. One, that the public benefit fund had 4 categories. I got 3 of them. I didn't get the fourth. You said research. One was the energy. One was the water.
Renewable energy, demand side management, research development demonstration, and the low income subsidy.
And then the last thing I have is that in a report you gave us back, I think you answered a ton of questions, July 9 to 10. Has much changed since that report, or is that the new report that you're going to be responding to?
There are several information that was very particular to in response to Councilman Alacon's questions, so we are trying to address those.
So you're going to address those, but
It's different. It's different from it's different from.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Most of you. Thank you. Okay. Do I have to note and file that, or we're sending it to Energy, right? So how are they going to, what item are they going to report to in energy?
It's going to be a double, it's going to be a double referral. It's going to be referred to jobs and energy at the same time. Unless we take action.
Under this file?
Just the report back will go to energy, right? Because
Yeah,
if we receive and file this, then whatever they're reporting back will go to energy.
Okay, then that would be the order. Okay. Item number 1?
Item number 1 is a
Item number
commu-
1 and 2, we want to join together, right? Yes.
Okay. Item number 1 is a Community Development Department, Jobs and Business Development Committee, and Housing Committee and Economic Development Committee reports relative to the results of the City Charter Section 1022 review of the city loan of $15 million to the Valley Economic Development Center to implement a small business loan program on a citywide basis. Item number 2 is a motion Alarcon Rosendahl relative to the CLA, CDD, and Transportation Department to report with recommendations to establish a taxi owner-operated small business lending program along with an incentives plan to encourage taxi drivers to purchase hybrid and environmentally efficient vehicles.
I'm Ninus Benjamin from CDD.
Okay.
Philip Vargas from CDD.
Councilman, our report is that existing program that we have in place is not working as expected. In fact, it's coming materially short of expectations. There are two fundamental reasons for it. Part of it because we have utilized Section 108 funding program, and since that is a term loan, that our payables to HUD will be in term of a term loan. We have structured our financing under small business loan program also as a term loan. However, most of the businesses are requiring these days a revolving line of credit to borrow, pay back, and borrow again, which will not work. It will be against the regulations under Section 108 loan program. Another reason is basically we have the way we have structured this. VEDC was supposed to be conduit, borrower, and lender under this program. Unfortunately, the program is not widely marketed and is also priced outside of what market is, significantly higher price. This, as a result, we are getting applications which are significantly in higher risk. They are not properly collateralized. Often they do not meet regulations. So we have ended up declining a lot of them. And those that we have approved, unfortunately, VEDC or the borrowers have not been able to carry them forward. They have not closed. So far, we have closed total 4 transactions. The largest one is with PCS, where the program was announced in their premises. Is a $450,000 program that we have securitized it by assignment of royalty incomes that they are getting under the program. The program as it is not working again, so we have made concrete recommendations that in light of we are restructuring the LABA programs into Los Angeles Business Source Centers for these entities, including VEDC, to be the originators of the loans. CDD itself underwrite the program. HUD has to approve every transaction. To have an independent credit committee to review each recommendation. And by that, basically, to have a broader and more effective way of implementation of this program.
What would, and the business source centers are run directly by CDD?
We are administering the program, correct. There will be 4 to 5 Los Angeles Business Source Centers. They have been selected through an RFP program. And in fact, VEDC is one of them. They are citywide, they're geographically spread out. So they will be originating, and they will get a fee for it under the revised.
Okay, I'm not clear on, so what's the difference?
Right now, origination is only through VEDC. And VEDC has multiple programs, sources of.
So in our business source centers, we have multiple agencies?
Yes, we have MCS, we have.
What is MCS?
The abbreviation, I just do not recall the exact name.
What's MCS? Okay. What is that?
Is a not-for-profit which does provide business services mostly in Hollywood and close to downtown area.
Including loans?
Yes, they do. They can originate loans. They do have
Okay.
capacity.
So, and what other organizations?
VEDC is the other one. PACE is the other one. Vermont's Lawson Economic Development Center in South Los Angeles is another.
Okay, so under what you are proposing, the money would be available to these various organizations. So theoretically, VEDC could still lend all this money.
Basically, VEDC is no longer will act as a lender, will be as originator.
Okay, to describe the difference to me.
Basically, at this moment, the way we structured this program, VEDC was a conduit borrower from the city, and they were the lender to the businesses. Under the revised program,
But we still approve the loan.
that's correct.
Okay.
Under the revised program, VEDC and business source centers will merely originate, receive a fee for origination.
What do they do? What does
Basically-
originate do?
We will create a standard application format. They interface with the borrowers, fill out those applications, submit them to CDD. If they are basically meet basic eligibility, we will do further underwriting analysis and recommend them to a credit committee. And if they do not meet, we just cannot recommend them. That will stop there.
Okay. So you're anticipating that you'll get more recommendations from these various organizations, and maybe a little bit of competition will be at play here?
Yes, it will be. And also, one of the reasons that we are not getting at the moment application is because VEDC has competing sources of funds. Since this program we initiated through your motion, VEDC subsequently obtained additional $5 million from Goldman Sachs, additional $5 million from Chase, JP Morgan Chase. So those are funds which are really not regulated, and we are glad that they are lending that money, frankly, but this program is not being marketed either. This program, again, this is not something that is a push program. We are not pushing that businesses that to come and borrow. This is for businesses, viable businesses that private banks are not lending to them. This is to help to fill that vacuum.
Okay. Okay. Well, Mr. Parks?
Yeah, let me just ask you, and although this information seems dated, on the CAO's report back in 2008, on page 3, they talk about the debt service as it relates to 108 loans. And on the one hand, they're saying that if we get involved in the loan that's disallowed, it's a general fund impact. If it's a loan in which the person can't pay back, it's an impact on the block grant.
That is correct. That is one of that's what we monitor. Every time a borrower under existing program requests for funding, we receive the request and we analyze whether it is an eligible activity or not. I have to report back that some of the intent of the borrowings were not eligible, so we declined. And many borrowers were not happy because they used to go to a bank, draw under their line of credit, and enjoy the funds. Under this program, we had to decline. We had no way but to decline it, because if we had accepted an ineligible activity for use of CDBG funds, would have hit the general fund.
I understand that, but in that same paragraph, they talk about CDD is going to report on this issue as it relates to the repayment and our liability. Has that report been done?
No.
Okay. Is that going to be done? Because that's an impact on either as the block grant diminishes, instead of 80 million, you could end up with significantly less if they don't pay back, if you get a bunch of bad loans. If you happen to then give a loan and it's ineligible, then the general fund. And so what was requested from the city at the CAO back in 2008 was that CDD was going to lay that out and explain what some of the precautions and the things that we should be sensitive to.
Councilman, that's The reason that recommendation is there, when we made the recommendation for the program, our initial expectation based on representations from VEDC was that there are about $5 million loans in the pipeline that we can immediately implement, which we had not looked at them. And so we structured it well. We said $5 million, let's start with $2 million. Councilman, we have not lent even $1 million. We do not have actually the pipeline, the actual transactions to report back about that ineligibility factor at all, because the volume of done transactions are 4 only, total 4.
There were what now?
The number of transactions that we have done are only 4.
4 loans.
Only done 4 loans.
Yes.
Okay, let me then ask you on dealing with, because that 108 stuff is so tricky in the sense of payback. Have we looked at other sources such as UDAG or program dollars and things like that that generally do not have these restrictions?
UDAG funds are very small, about $280,000 was left about a year ago. I believe most of that is reprogrammed. But program income is subject to the same regulation. Program income is a CDBG fund, is subject to totally the same regulation as a CDBG.
CBDG, but what about 108? 108
It's the same.
Do they have, I thought it was more specific, such as job creation, and if you didn't pay it back at a certain time, you had, I mean, there was a debt service.
That's correct.
All right, but now on block grant money, generally, if we use it, what I understood is that generally there is no debt service.
That's correct.
Okay.
The only difference between a CDBG fund and 108 fund is, as far as regulation, use of fund, job creation, or any other national objective are exactly the same.
The criteria, but the payback is what
The
I'm.
payback, of course, CDBG fund is a base fund, is like equity. At discretion of the council, it can be either given as a grant or as a loan. But 108 funds has to be given in the form of a loan because it has to be paid back, because as a result of extending 108 funds, we are borrowing money. City is borrowing money in order to assist a business. Okay. So all the time we structure that in the form of a loan to have receivables against the payables that we will have to HUD against that borrowing.
Then let me ask you, has this been, because this report initially was 2008, has this been in CDD since then, putting the mechanics of the program together?
Mechanics of the program, when we put it together, it was one of the, City of Los Angeles and City of Philadelphia were the first cities that tried to use 108 for small business loan programs. Mm-hmm. It was very much approved as far as the mechanics by HUD. However, one of the obstacles was experience City of Los Angeles had with respect to Los Angeles Community Development Bank. There were a lot of problems. It was before my time, so I just heard about them. So HUD was extremely cautious. What they did, they said every loan that we recommend, they want to review it before we do it. Every single loan that we are doing under this program, HUD reviews it and approves it. For mechanics, for national objective, regulation, and all the details.
Is there somebody here from Valley Economic Development?
I don't believe so.
All right. Let me just ask a couple more questions. It's that, as this progresses, when could we expect that CDD report that talks about the debt service and give us some assurance how you're going to manage this? It's not going to cost money on either side.
As soon as we have a few loans that we can demonstrate what they have been used for, that they have met the eligibility requirement, we can report back. Right now we have only, I believe, one borrower is PCS. Right. Mr. Marshall Lester is here, that we use that loan in order basically for eligible activity of their business operation. And he's the only person here can testify to that. But as far as report on eligibility, right now, again, we have funded actual expenses. We have not given a loan for borrowers just to spend it as they wish sometimes in the future. We have actually paid for expenses incurred. We were able to verify an invoice, what was used for, what canceled check attached to that, so we know that is an eligible activity.
Somewhere in one of your reports you reflected you had like $4 million in the pipeline. Does that no longer exist?
$5 million. VEDC represented that there are 5 million loans in their pipeline.
They represented 5 million, right. But again, that's something that if they get access to this money, that they would be moving those out of the pipeline.
Well, they got access to 15 million, but never happened. We got that type of applications, that volume.
Okay, did they get the money or they did not?
No,
Let me,
no, they did not.
So they didn't get the 15 million?
No, it was made available to them to borrow it for actual case.
let me share just one, or embellish something that was already said. When they got the 15 million, other potential lending institutions wanted to partner with them, largely because they had this 15 million. So they were able to get 5 million from Goldman Sachs and 5 million from Chase to do what was promoted as essentially the same program, but it had far less restrictions on it. And so they would put that money first. And that's one of the reasons why you have fewer applications on the city money. So if we were able to look at what they did with the other $10 million, I think we would get a better sense of how our program helped stimulate this. But the problem is that other lending having occurred, probably some of those loans probably wouldn't have been eligible under the city money.
Let me ask you, then what are we approving today? Is this program on or off, or?
The program is technically on, but we are not getting any applications, any proposals.
And the 108 money is sitting there?
No, I think the question was, what are we proposing
Our
going forward?
proposal is, one, to terminate existing agreement with VEDC and instead restructure the program to implement it through the Los Angeles Business Source Centers.
Okay, so
CDD will be,
but you coordinate it.
CDD will manage, will actually be the lender.
So on so the report that we have today on this 09 report, or with a recommendation, so what are you're asking us to approve option 1 or option 2?
Basically, we are requesting authority to terminate the contract with VEDC, and instead of that, to enter into agreements with business source centers for them to originate for a fee, for CDD to manage, underwrite for credit and regulatory aspect of each loan itself. And after we recommend to have an independent credit committee from the bank to review and CDD's recommendation. Then every transaction, no matter what, goes to HUD. If they approve it, then to have a servicer to document each loan for the borrowers.
Okay. All right, I'm clear now. I couldn't figure out what you were asking us to do. Okay, so you were basically saying, Valley, we put that aside. We're going to have an internal program that CDD will manage with our, work source centers?
That's correct. Los Angeles
Business
Source
centers,
Center.
right.
Okay, all right, I got you now.
Mr. Parks, if I could sort of capture the sense of what we're doing here is we're moving from one contractor, VEDC, to which was the originator and lending institution, but had to get approval from CDD and HUD on each and every loan, which was a very complicated process. In fact, I received complaints from VEDC saying that we were being too restrictive, but then we were being restricted by HUD. So what we are now doing is allowing multiple originators, PACE, and you mentioned some of the others, to originate with the same pool of money, but CDD will be the lender. So it will cut out one layer of bureaucracy, and hopefully, when I talked about competition, the originators would be a little more careful in terms of sending loans to CDD because they want them to get approved. Because if they don't get approved, then the other organizations would have greater opportunities to get their loans approved. So hopefully that will inspire better applications to CDD. And that's why I concur with this recommendation.
Yeah. And then, but we still got the same dilemma on 108. You got some issues, eligibility is a key. If it doesn't
Eligibility,
impact the general fund, or people not defaulting is a key, that it doesn't affect block grant money.
if in the normal course of business, a business defaults, that will not affect the general fund.
No, but it will affect your block grant.
Absolutely will affect the block grant. However, if we make mistake and HUD finds out that we have funded an ineligible activity, such as, for example, we receive sometimes requests for financing furnitures, but furnitures categorically are exempt. I mean, is restricted. They're ineligible activity. We cannot fund acquisition of furniture because if something goes wrong with the business, those furniture can end up in somebody's house. So they are ineligible activity. We cannot fund them, no matter what. And there, unfortunately, we have had that obstacle with the VEDC staff because for them it was, why you cannot fund it? Just let's fund it. We could not. We have rejected those.
Very good. Then let me ask you a question on number 2. All I'd ask, and this is dealing with taxis, with Mr. What's his name, Clark in the mayor's office. He has been reporting to the ARA committee over months. I believe it's something called Safer Cities, that they're looking to find money to help the cab companies green their cabs. And I just ask that as you go through looking at what's recommended on this item 2, that you include Mr. Clark into that discussion as to the status.
Jim Clark.
Jim Clark.
Yep. Will do.
Okay. I think it's called Safer Cities. I'm not positive on that name, but he would know about the greener cabs, greening of the cabs, because he's reported on it at ARA several times.
Will do.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if we have no cards on the item number 1, I'd like to move to item number 2.
Councilman, I'm not sure if you want to do this now, but CDD requested that we read the recommendations into the record since the
Oh.
report was just submitted now.
Okay, where are those recommendations?
I can read them in. I'll read them in.
Okay.
Okay.
Our first recommendation is to authorize the general manager of CDD or designee to negotiate termination of the city agreement, contract number 1116379, dated November 30th, 2009, as amended on January 25th, 2010, to our loan agreement with the Valley Economic Development Center, Inc., in accordance with the intent of this transmittal, subject to the approval of the city attorney as to form and legality. Our recommendation number 2 is to authorize the general manager of CDD or designee to negotiate and execute contracts to restructure the City of LA's small business loan program for the marketing and loan origination of the program by the LA Business Source Centers, including VEDC, as loan originators, credit and regulatory underwriting transactions under the program by CDD, credit approval of all recommended loans under the program by a panel of independent credit committee, and administration of loan documentation and loan servicing by a qualified third-party loan servicer, subject to the approval of the city attorney as to form and legality. Our third recommendation is to authorize the general manager of CDD or designee to negotiate and execute all amendments to the contracts with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development relative to the restructuring of the program, subject to the approval of the city attorney as to form and legality. Fourth recommendation is to authorize the general manager of CDD or designee to prepare controller instructions with the concurrence of the CAO, including any future technical adjustments relative to the intent of this transmittal, and to instruct the city controller to implement these instructions. Our fifth recommendation is to authorize the controller to establish a new account, 008625, Small Business Loan Program, and appropriate up to $14,040,000 with Fund 43F, as in Frank, of CDD Section 108 Loan Guarantee, and expend the funds upon proper request of the general manager of CDD or designee.
Okay, that's exactly what I thought it was. Why is VEDC not here? Were they notified?
Well, this report, the draft was prepared. CDD management were not available till Friday afternoon to sign it. And that is why this item was scheduled ahead of having been signed.
Okay, so has VEDC been informed about this recommendation?
No. No, it has
Okay,
not
then-
been.
Then I would be very skeptical to take this action without allowing them an opportunity to speak. In fact, they haven't even had the opportunity to speak to CDD about it. So I think it would be appropriate to. Well, I think we. Okay, I suggest we approve the recommendation, but that we ask CDD to notify VDC before this matter is considered by council, so that they have an opportunity to speak with council members. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Item number 2. I'm sorry. Yes, item number. I'm confused on the item.
Yes,
here.
item has already been read into the record.
That was item number 1, the small business loan, regarding the taxi cab loan program. If we can move forward with that, that's item number 2. Do we have a report on that one?
Councilman, as far as the taxi cab program, it can be funded, as far as CDD portion of it is concerned, under this program.
Oh, that's why we combined the 2 items. Okay. So the recommendation would be to receive and file item number 2, which is my motion, to see if we can create some kind of taxi cab loan program to inspire, to move the greening of our taxi cab service forward as expeditiously. But that could fall under this particular loan program, and we would. So the item would be to receive and file item number 2 and instruct CDD to add the small business loan program, add this concept, this taxi cab loan program to the small business loan program file. Any objection?
Get with Mr. Clark, see if there's any cohesiveness between what he's working on.
We will do that. Thank you.
I'm sorry,
I'm
sir.
not sure of the forum, I've never done this before, but if I have something to say about item number 1, when would I?
Oh, you would fill out a card. Why don't you step forward and you can fill out a card later. Yeah. No. Step forward and you can fill out the card later. But I trust that you will fill out the card so that we don't have to send the sergeant at arms after you. I'm just kidding. We don't have a sergeant at arms here. Oh yeah. Well, I'm sorry. General Services standing up. The sergeant at arms is here, so we really do have to have that card.
Okay, my name is Marshall Lester. I'm the CEO of Powerline Control Systems. We are the first recipient of, as you were there, the first recipient of the citywide loan program. The mayor came to Powerline Control Systems and gave a press conference on announcing this new loan program, which I guess was pretty late, but
Mr.
this
Lester.
announcement was in October.
Mr. Lester, please just speak into the mic. They can hear you better if you speak into the mic, actually.
Okay.
And also,
this was in October 2009.
there's literally dozens of people listening to this as we speak.
Okay. I just have a story to tell, which is about our interaction between my company, Powerline Control Systems, PCS for short, and VEDC, Roberto Barragan at VDC, and how this played out over the next year after this loan was initiated back in October 2009. It turned into a real tragedy where VEDC almost put our company out of business after about a year. And we were rescued by Ninos Benjamin and the EDD department, Economic Development Department of the City of Los Angeles, who came in, and within weeks we would have been bankrupt, but they took over the loan, the initial citywide loan, and redid the loan properly. And then since then, we've progressed and created more jobs, and we're on the path to launching our new product line, which is a industrial lighting control system that's green and saves energy and can create jobs. And we're committed to making all the products in California. So everything will be made in California, actually in the Valley. And so there's a story, which, if I could pass these out to you, it's just a chronology of what happened between VDC, Roberto Berrigan, and our company, and how we almost got put out of business, and how in the end we were saved by Ninos Benjamin and his department, who within weeks of being out of money and going bankrupt, we were saved by them, who took over the loan, the citywide loan, and administered it directly with the city to PCS, restored it to its original value, and then we proceeded along with the plan as it was originally designed. This little chronology, it gets a little complicated because there's really two different loans we're talking about. The first loan was the citywide loan program, which was reduced from the original $450,000 to $220,000 by VDC, I guess because we didn't have enough collateral. And then, before we had gotten this loan, we were solicited by VDC to go after a second loan from the Department of Health and Human Services, which was a grant to VDC, a loan to PCS. And the dates are on this chronology. And this was actually before there was any disbursement from the first loan. And the real bad part about the second loan was the loan was approved. There was a large application to HHS for this sort of grant loan. The total grant was $800,000, and the loan was going to be $600,000 to Powerline Control Systems. And then this was all approved and ready to be funded, and then we were informed that in addition to the loan that was part of the grant application, we were going to be required to sign an equity agreement for 10% of our company. And this is the first we heard of it after this whole loan was approved. Yes, sir? Oh. Okay, so, and then we were pretty shocked that not only were we going to have to do the loan that was part of the application, but that now we were going to be required to turn over 10% of our company to VDC, even though this was not part of the application at all. In fact, we had specifically, at the very beginning of the process, been given a choice between a loan and an equity agreement, and we chose, because we think PCS is going to be worth billions of dollars, we chose the loan. And this is all in emails. With the emails, some of them are attached to this little chronology. And then to make a longer story shorter, Roberto Berrigan told us, in an email he told us the board of directors required this equity agreement for any HHS loan. And then I started talking to the board of directors of VDC, a couple of them, and they didn't know anything about it. So I started to question whether this was true or not. And I was told, don't talk to my board and don't talk to HHS. Of course, I did both. So then he told us in writing and in person that if we didn't sign this equity agreement and quit talking to the board and to HHS, then we weren't going to get the loan. He was going to either give it to another company or turn it back to HHS. And finally, we decided not to sign this equity agreement, even though we were desperate for the money. And then Roberto did what he said he was going to do. He relinquished the loan back to HHS. And then in the next month, he declared us in default on the first loan. And as a result of declaring us in default on the first loan, and this was not for missing any payments or being late or anything. This was for some technical reasons, like we didn't have a 5-year lease because our landlord only gives a 3-year lease. We didn't meet this debt service ratio of 1.2, which we had never met, even from day one. Nobody that needs money for development has a debt service ratio over 1. Otherwise, they wouldn't be trying to get a loan. But anyway, so this requirement is in all the loans that they do. So he declared us in default. Go ahead.
Mr. Lesser, your time expired quite a while ago, but my staff is very familiar with your particular situation. This occurred in Mr. Smith's area at the time, and but we helped because we created this program, and so very pleased that CDD was able to help you in the long run. But the bottom line of your testimony is that you agree with this transformation of having CDD administer this program.
Wholeheartedly.
Okay. Okay.
I believe that this,
And how's your situation working out?
everything is very good now. The loan has been recovered, the city loan, and the grant from HHS has been taken over. The director at HHS helped us have another nonprofit take that over.
Okay.
So we recovered from both of these problems.
Well, I do want to say this. I have to congratulate you on your tenacity, and you know you sort of represent to us the sort of entrepreneurship that made America strong. But also there's sort of a disconnect between business community and government, and when we team up together, sometimes we don't understand the other side, and in this case, you did not let that stop you from your what you thought was right, and I actually concur with you on you were the perfect company to get this kind of loan, and the other situations that you described that had nothing to do with this loan really were unfortunate, and I'm glad that Mr. Benjamin was able to sort through all that and get you the original loan that you had applied for. And more importantly, that you were able to expand your company and create more jobs in a new technology that I believe has tremendous potential. By the way, they do the lighting at the parking lots at Cal State Northridge, and it's one of these things where as they walk, the lights light up so that nobody will walk in the darkness, but they don't have to keep all the lights on. So it's only with movement.
Right.
Yeah,
Save
so,
energy and
yeah,
industrial.
I remember the company well. Well, congratulations on that. I appreciate you coming down and providing that testimony. And we've recommended that this be approved, sending it on to council. I anticipate VEDC will probably be making a statement. I don't know. But once they're notified about this, they probably would want to make a statement. But thank you very much for your testimony.
Okay.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Good luck. Okay, I have no other cards on this. And make sure you fill out the card because she is watching and going to make sure you don't leave without that card being filled out. Is that correct? I am teasing you. I hope you don't. Okay, let's move on. We were on the
Item number 3.
item number 3. Thank you.
Item number 3 is a motion, Alarcon Parks, relative to CLA and CAO to report with input from BTAC,
I
Office
actually
of
wanted
Finance.
to take items 3, 4, and 5 together. They're all related.
Okay. And Professor Swenson on a phased-in approach to eliminating the city's gross receipt tax. Item number 4 is a motion, Alarcon Parks, relative to Professor Charles Swenson of USC presenting his study on various Business Tax Advisory Committee proposals and requesting the CLA, CAO, and Office of Finance to review the study and make recommendations to the BTAC proposals. Item number 5 is a motion, Alarcon Parks, relative to creation of a business commitment credit for businesses that stay in and retain jobs in the city of Los Angeles.
Okay, we do have one public comment on item number 4. Beverly Kenworthy from the LA Chamber.
Hi, thank you. Council members, Beverly Kenworthy with the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce. I think I actually had comments on 3 and 4, but just in general, just wanted to thank you both on your leadership on this issue. It's very important to the business community. I think in terms of moving forward and working out a phase-in implementation plan, I think what the business community is most concerned about is certainty. You know, how are we going to incentivize businesses to come here? And are we going to follow through with reducing or eliminating the business tax? And so we're a little concerned about some of the language in the motion. While we understand there needs to be a phase-in plan because there could be a potential gap, we're concerned that, you know, if the numbers don't pan out right away, that we can eliminate that at a moment's notice. And how are we going to get people to commit to bring their business to Los Angeles if they don't know for sure that they are going to be relieved of this tax burden? So that's our biggest concern, but we look forward to working closely with you as this moves forward to figure out what's best for the city and for the businesses in our city. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, I have to say I was surprised to see the opinion piece from the LA Chamber suggesting that this motion was premature. When in all my years the business community has been screaming for the elimination of the gross receipts tax, somebody introduces a motion to do that, and they say it's premature, which is...
I can explain that.
You don't have to explain it, and you had your time, but...
Well, we're very interested to see what the business...
Excuse me, I listened to you. I want you to listen to me. The LA Chamber suggested my motion was premature, when all my motion calls for is the CLA and CAO to review the Swenson study, B-tax recommendation, and the retention incentives. And it calls for an elimination of the gross receipts tax in 5 to 10 years. The purpose of putting that in there was merely to stimulate debate. So I took offense to the opinion piece because I felt it was premature, because it failed to analyze the motion in its proper context. But to suggest that I was being premature when the business community has been harping on me for 18 years in public office to eliminate the gross receipts tax, I felt was just completely inappropriate and wrong. So it's unfortunate that the theoretical advocate for the business community is talking about me moving too quickly on the elimination of gross receipts tax. And that's ridiculous.
Thought the recommendations were premature. That's all. Not eliminating the gross receipts tax. Clearly, we must be.
The motion called for a study. It asked the CAO and the CLA, which are the appropriate entities in the city of Los Angeles, to analyze the potential elimination of the gross receipts tax in 5 to 10 years.
Right.
It wasn't declarative of any specific method. It merely laid out some things to consider, but that's what would happen anyway. So it was very, I felt, as I said, inappropriate for the LA Chamber to do that. But I'm not going to waste my time getting into a writing match with the LA Chamber. We speak with the power of our vote. Nevertheless, the actions are before us today, and also with the new chairman, Eric Garcetti, he will have the opportunity to consider the analysis from the CLA and CAO. I thought the other thing that was interesting was they were asking, they wanted more study, and then they're saying I suggested more study. I didn't suggest more study. We have the study. We have the Swenson study. We have B-tax recommendations, and those will be forthcoming. And I was just trying to get ahead of the curve. So in any case, we have those matters before us. So we have the elimination of the business tax motion, which would ask the CAO to do that review that I spoke of. The Swenson report, which was item number 4, which is under a separate motion that I introduced asking for Swenson to report to the committee. And then we had the business retention incentive, which was also my motion to look at creating a business tax retention incentive. In other words, how do we keep businesses in Los Angeles? Since I had introduced the business tax holiday motion, there were appropriately calls for why not create an incentive to keep business in Los Angeles. That was this intention. But all of these are related to the gross receipts tax, and so it would be appropriate to combine all of them into one. And so my recommendation would be to amend item 1 to add an instruction to the CLA and CAO and Office of Finance to analyze Professor Swenson's report, the forthcoming BTAC recommendations, and the retention incentive as proposed in Council File 100284, and report back to the Jobs and Business Development Committee and Budget and Finance Committee within 45 days. And then I can go off to the IT Committee.
I was just going to ask, not that we always look for reducing work with the CAO, if whether 3 and 4 could be merged and to let them respond to both within one report?
That would be the intent, yes. Are there any, would anybody else like to make testimony on this item? Okay. Yeah, we would also want to receive and file items 2 and 3. So we're essentially collapsing all 3 into one. I'm sorry, receive and file items 4 and 5.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Ed Cabrera, Assistant Director, Office of Finance. Chair, I just wanted to state for the record that the Office of Finance definitely supports the initial recommendation on item number 3, and I just wanted to clarify that the Office of Finance does have the ability to report back and provide assistance to CLA and CAO in terms of the direct impact on a reduction of the tax solely on the business tax. However, we don't have the technical expertise to speak to the economic factors that the professor has stated. We have made various recommendations to the professor and to the Business Tax Advisory Committee on certain items that we believe would be important for the policymakers to have contained in the report, and the professor will be making an addendum and a report back to BTAC on that addendum at their next meeting.
Okay. Now, BTAC, you said, is anybody from BTAC here? Okay, now BTAC has not finally made their final recommendations. They've essentially just sort of reviewed Mr. Swenson's report, and they will be coming back with more specific recommendations.
That is correct.
And I suppose some of the questions are how to, if you eliminate the gross receipts tax, the question is how to, and whether or not to do it by industry, by category of tax, by specifically plucking out businesses that are growth businesses, for example, versus those that might not be growth businesses or might be the reverse, and or just eliminating the tax across the board.
Right. Those all would be issues that BTAC, in theory, is looking at in terms of their final recommendations. What I've spoken
excuse me for interrupting, but I would anticipate that no matter how it would be recommended, that those 3, and there may be others, but those 3 would have different impacts that you would have to analyze.
In terms of business tax, correct.
In
correct.
terms of the impact to the city's budget.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And we certainly will provide our assistance to CLA and CAO. Some of the recommendations, if I may, just advise the chair and the rest of the committee members. Office of Finance felt that it was important in terms of our recommendations that the final report as well as any addendum include a delineation of the timeline for the proposed modifications, as well as a delineation of the potential revenue, either increases or decreases. We also felt that the report should have an identification of the type of revenue streams that would be impacted and the potential within each revenue stream. For example, property tax, sales tax, so forth. We also made recommendations to the professor and to BTAC that the proposed job increases that were identified in the report be listed in such a way that different levels of jobs, blue-collar jobs, white-collar jobs, professional service jobs, were outlined as much as possible, so that way the policymakers, again, had as much relevant information to consider in your decision-making process.
Well, just so that it be said, I understand the Swenson report does not make recommendations.
That's correct.
That was another fallacy of the Chamber of Commerce recommendations. They did not make recommendations. The professor merely laid out what he anticipated the revenue projections would be, and then we, under various scenarios, I think there were 8 different scenarios that BTAC asked him to analyze, and under each scenario there are different ramifications. So he merely provided his analysis of what he thought the ramifications were, and generally said that that if we eliminated the gross receipts tax, we could stimulate a revenue of more. But I think he was very careful to not specify the best way to do that. Or the way to do that in any sense, because he thought those decisions would be better made by us. But I also am thinking that more analysis is needed on depending on what kinds of proposals would move forward.
That would be correct.
And frankly, that's why I introduced the 5 to 10 year scenario, because to do anything more quickly could have very serious repercussions on the city's budget and the services that we provide. So
that is correct. And just to clarify, what Finance recommended was that the report contain more explanation to clarify exactly how the proposed impact were arrived at.
Okay, was there anybody else want to testify on this matter? Mr. Parks, did you want to say anything?
I just want to make a comment on item 5, and they're all going to be merged into one report. And I forget whether it was what committee or whether we talked about this before, but there were a couple of things that we had asked that as the CAO and the CLA evaluate the Swenson report, a good deal of emphasis is placed on business tax and the negative impact it has on city businesses. But one of the things we'd asked that we couldn't find in there is whether there's any evaluation of what state disincentives also drives business out of the state, as well as what we're looking at city disincentives. And the other part of it was that to evaluate this issue of the standard business tax that we have control of and that we've stabilized, if we would trade it in for a trickle down from business, sales, and things we have no control or minimal control, particularly when other legislative bodies can decide what they give you and when, how that could be a part of the concerns of making that switch. I don't know if anyone disagrees that these other taxes would be populated. I don't know if we know how much, but we certainly know we have less control over them than we have on business tax. And so those are some of the issues. And I think the other one we asked, if we ever get to the point of diminishing business tax over time, what impact does that have on the Office of Finance and its personnel? Do they go more into a audit? Do they then disappear? What happens to them if you get to the point that 50%, 30%, or whatever business tax goes away? And so those are things that I think we were looking for also from the CAO. And then on also specifically to number 5, that there's a request in the motion that we have an ordinance, and I'm assuming this report will come back before an ordinance is done.
And for what it's worth, I believe the gross receipts tax can be at a minimum greatly reduced, but we have to do, I think the safest approach would be to target, to look at what industries and what categories would definitely provide stimulus to on the revenue side. But there are going to be some categories where the reverse would be true. If we eliminate the gross receipts tax, it could have a negative impact on our revenue stream. And so we would want to take the safest course. Well, maybe not necessarily the safest course, because any elimination of the gross receipts tax is going to bear some risk. But we want to take a prudent course toward the elimination of the gross receipts tax. I respect the desire for certainty, but that's exactly why we want to be prudent about it. We don't want to just radically eliminate it and then our government falls apart. I mean, that would not. I don't know how that would serve the purpose. Mr. Wickham.
Yes, John Wickham with CLA's office. One of the things that we will take a look at in our review is that the business tax includes the gross receipts is the main component, but there are a few other taxing systems that fall within the business tax that need to be part of this. Those other taxes generate a few $1 million. I don't see why you would eliminate the gross receipts and then keep some of the like the circus tax and things like that.
Circus?
Yeah, they're actually
bad example.
Circus inside buildings, circuses outside buildings, and a circus parade. So there are 3 taxes for circuses. So yeah, it's the circus parades used to be a big thing back in the day. They're not anymore. So whatever this review is, it needs to include the full scope of the business tax, not just the gross receipts, because there are, I think, some efficiency issues that need to be addressed. So.
Okay.
Also, if I may, Chair, just a couple of comments in response to your comments as well as Councilmember Parks. With regards to the business retention incentive, I would point out that Professor Swenson does have the analysis of a BTAC proposal that did address a business retention credit. That would be number one. And again, that report would include economic analysis issues and factors that are beyond the scope of finance's ability to address. Number two, with regards to the impact on the Office of Finance, regardless of what change occur, certainly the Office of Finance will be able to speak to that. And then finally, we again would defer to CAO and CLA in terms of any economic analysis, but we would be providing direct impact on business tax revenues with regards to any reduction or elimination.
Okay, I understand BTAC was supposed to meet tomorrow.
Correct.
But the chairman's mother passed away. We want to send our condolences to Mr. Grief for his loss. But when they make the recommendations, we'll move forward with that discussion about the elimination of the gross receipts tax. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 6.
Item number 6 is a verbal report from the CLA relative to the meetings that took place with film location managers.
John Wickham with the CLA's office. I don't know if Paul Audley would like to come up as well with Film LA.
He's waiting to hear what you say.
Yeah, I guess so. As you know, the location managers are really on the front line in terms of that interface between the city and the public and in the entertainment industry. And if we've learned anything over the last 2 or 3 years, is that it's critical to talk to and listen to the location managers and the experiences they have in receiving services from the city and the issues that they're running into out in the community. So the city staff initiated conversations with the help of Ed Duffy at the Location Managers Union, who really has done an extraordinary job in working with the city and helping the city understand the work that they're doing. And then Paul Audley and Film LA were also instrumental in helping us hold a series of meetings with location managers who run TV shows, and they're in the field and they're on the streets in the city of Los Angeles, and they have a lot of interaction with our city departments. And city staff wanted to learn from them what issues were out there. with regard to their ability to do their work. And one of the things that we learned is that the city has been improving its services. A number of the location managers commented that things are better. That the policy that the Department of Transportation adopted a year and a half ago with regard to lane closures is working out, and that a number of other programs that the city has implemented over the last few years have helped them. There are a few areas, though, where there's still work to do. One of the first items related to street postings for street closures and for parking prohibitions. What happens is the street will be parked. Will be receive a sign "No parking" for a certain length, and it'll be for a set number of days. And some of the location managers want to be more specific about that the closure would only be from 8 to noon or 8 to 1, because they don't want to impact the neighborhood poorly. They want people to be able to park there. They want to get in, do their job, and get out. With the city, the Department of Transportation, they would then have to spend a great deal of time doing up individual signs for every street posting, and there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these postings every day, every week. So there's some issues that needed to be worked out in terms of helping the industry be more specific on their times, and yet being more efficient with the city. And one of the results of those comments was a meeting with the location managers and Department of Transportation. We went over to their facility to look at their sign shop, see how their job is done, see what kinds of postings they have. And it turns out that Transportation actually has a series of standard signs, and they have certain specificity in them. And it's just the location managers didn't have that information. So one of the actions is that list of standard signs is now available to the location managers, so they can actually request more specifically the sign that will help them out. It's that kind of thing that we've learned. The communication between the film industry and the city is helping to improve these services. Another area where there have been some concern is with recreation and parks monitors. There's a fair amount of turnover in the monitors, and so there's a constant need for training. And what happens in some of the training is that 2 park monitors will be assigned to a film shoot, but then two trainees will come along, and all of a sudden you have 4 people who are instructing a film crew. You can do this, you can't do that, you need to move, blah, blah, blah. And it becomes difficult for the film company to know who they're responding to, who's in charge at this film shoot, which monitor do they need to pay attention to, and so on. So one of the results, and then there's some confusing information too, where a park monitor will say you can't park on that grass, and then they turn around and there's a recreation parks driving a 4-wheel drive across the grass. So there's these kinds of inconsistencies. Why is it okay for them? Why is it not okay for us? Kinds of things that need to be worked out. There have been some subsequent meetings with Rec and Parks and the location managers with regard to the training program for park monitors, and the location managers have offered to participate in their training sessions. So the new park monitors will have direct interface with the location managers before they even go out on a site to learn what the work is that the film industry is doing. And I need to follow up with Rec and Parks and CAO to see what the further solutions are to some of the issues there with the Recreation Parks film monitors. And then finally, there continues to be a series of issues with the county beaches and harbors department. It's not a department that we have any responsibility for. The film industry has a great deal of trouble filming at the beaches and in the parking lots at the beaches. And I don't know that we really have a solution for that. It's maybe more a conversation for the city political leaders with the county supervisors to, help, see if there are other things that can be done there. But there's a great deal of difficulty in
with regard to the parking lots, some of the parking lots are city parking lots.
Yeah, and those would not be a problem, but the ones that are operated by the county, there are issues about access and use, and then filming on and timing, and whole number of things going on there.
Okay, thank you. Oh, you're leaving?
Clay, Clay came along. Clay is the CLA's office as well, and he participated in the meetings. If there was anything else that I missed, Clay was here to.
No? You got it?
Well, yeah, let me just say that, let me take advantage of this item, since this is my last meeting as chair of this committee. Thank you, John, for your work on this issue. Actually, one of the most interesting items in the committee has been the work that we've been able to do with the film industry. And it's been a pleasure because we've had a significant amount of success. Coming to this committee, I still remember your expression when I said we're going to do a lot of this film stuff, and it was almost as if you were relieved, like all this work that you had pent up inside of you that was ready to go would have an outlet. And so I want to thank you for your you're not just doing the work of the city, you're doing work that you believe in, and that's the best kind of city work. And so thank you so much for helping us work through this process of making filming in LA better and more competitive with international competition. Secondly, I'd like to thank Paul Audley. Paul's here, and we want to thank him for Film LA is our vanguard on all of these issues, and we've actually seen a lot of success in 2 years that we couldn't have predicted, but we've been able to do it in a way that that I think has been very beneficial. And it's very indicative when you communicate with people from the film industry, because they know of the work that we do, and that's a rare occurrence in the city of Los Angeles for so many different elements of a particular industry to know that the city is moving forward. And so I think all of us working together, whether it be a bunch of different city council members, the mayor, Film LA, the county, or the Film Commission of the state, for whatever part they play in helping us, I think it's been very much appreciated, and so I think we've been on the right track, and I think the numbers have bared that out in terms of the number of filming opportunities. I wanted to thank Todd Lindgren. One of the most important things that we've done is create FilmWorks. The marketing scheme, we talked about it initially. It had been talked about for years, but we never really did it. And so having accomplished that, in fact, I think it's coming, tomorrow is going to be, you're coming to council? To show the PSA that people will be seeing in all the movie theaters. So that will be good for people not only to sit in the movie theater, air-conditioned movie theater someplace in Los Angeles, but to know that the fact that they're sitting there is creating jobs in our community and making LA more competitive in the film industry. So we want to thank Todd for what I think is a great marketing program. I only wish we had a larger budget so that we could do a better job with it, but we want to thank him. And then finally, I want to thank the location managers. They sort of stimulated discussion when they did their hit list, the top 10 worst sites to do filming in Los Angeles, and I promoted it in an op-ed piece, I think it was, and it sure stimulated debate. And I want to thank Ed Duffy and Eva Bitar for their no, not Eva. That's not the one I'm thinking of. I want to thank her for something else. But who is there's pardon me? I can't think of her name, but the location. All those people, but basically the location managers, because they have been, they are front line when it comes to our relationship with the community and filming organizations. We've changed a lot of different things, dozens and dozens of actions I think have had a positive impact. And so we want to thank not just the location managers for their particular role in this item, and then just they were everywhere. Whenever there was an event to stimulate discussion. I think Ed Duffy is now on the board of Film LA, and wasn't he president now? Chair. He's chairman of the board, and that speaks to obviously their commitment, but also their lifeblood, and so we want to thank them in particular for helping, and then all the different industries for opening up and believing that we could do these things, because there was times when the film industry just had nothing but negative things to say. It's very nice to be bumping into people in so many places who say thank you for doing something that we needed, or when not being aware of it, being told and saying, oh, well, that's really good, you're moving in the right direction. We hope the state continues to move in that direction. We want the city, I know that the city will continue to move in that direction under Eric Garcetti's leadership, and given that he's taking side jobs in the industry, we know that he will do wonderful things with this committee and with the film industry in specific. So with that, I want to thank everybody for. We want to continue this communication. What I said at the very beginning is the primary opportunity that we have is to improve our communication with the industry so that we understand each other better. And when we understand each other better, we can find those solutions. I said at the beginning, the problems that we have are not, there's no singular solution, but it's more like a death of 1,000 cuts. Well, I think we've reversed that trend, and but by eliminating each and every problem that we've encountered. And we have many more in front of us. It's a very dynamic industry. Things are going to change in terms of the problems. But I hope that we've set a tone that will is a little deeper into the skin of the city of Los Angeles, so that every council member is a little more informed about the issue. Every department understands their role in contributing to this industry, and I feel very good about the work we've done. And it couldn't have been done without John and Eva, who were instrumental from the staff perspective. It's really nice when the CAO and the CLA really believe in the work they're doing in concert with the council. And when that happens, we can make amazing things happen, and I think we did. So congratulations, and thank you again. With that, I think we have one more item, don't we?
Yes, item
number 7. But anyway, did you fill out a comment card, Paul? It's public comment. Oh, okay, yeah. So that would give you broader opportunities to say whatever you want. Okay, item number 7.
Item number 7 is a Community Development Department report relative to the status of One app implementation within the Family Source system.
Okay, we want to note and file the CDD report. That would be my recommendation. We also want to recommend that, recommend to the council president that we refer the One app issue to the Information Technology and General Services Committee, where I will be the chair. By the way, Mr. Audley, I hope to work with you as part of the information technology responsibilities, because I do believe there are tremendous issues that impact your industry that IT can get involved with, particularly on the piracy side. So be happy to get your advice and counsel on that. With that, we're opening it up for public comment, and Mr. Audley.
Thank you, and I'm looking forward to the opportunities to work with you on your new committees. But as this committee retires out of service, I wanted just to take a moment to thank the committee members for what has been 2 years of huge progress in bringing the needs of the film industry forward and dealing with them. I want to echo your comments that the industry is very much aware that the city has been truly an advocate in the past couple of years and moving their issues forward and making things happen. And I believe that a lot of the impetus has come from this committee to help other government organizations and branches to really begin to pay attention and to move. So I'm, on behalf of that industry, and certainly on behalf of Film LA, I'm grateful to you in your leadership as chair and to the committee for paying the kind of attention it has and for putting this forward. It is a job creator, and certainly there's been no bigger time, bigger need for job creators in LA than we're having these days. So we wanted to express our appreciation both as an organization but as a representative of the industry, and to present to the committee a new book which just came out called Location Filming in Los Angeles. As a token of our appreciation, but also as education about what has happened in history and where it's going. And again, thank you so much for your time and service on this committee.
Great, but you still have 47 seconds to speak, and since you were saying so many wonderful things, and remember there are dozens of people listening to us right now. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But, Mr. Ali, again, the thanks goes to you. We've been working as partners in this process. This is your daily activity, and it's been my pleasure to work with you to help out. It's an industry that affects all of us, and many of us don't know it. And just by letting people know, I think that helps contribute to solving the problems.
Certainly does.
Thank you much. With that, this meeting is adjourned.